Hey everyone, so we're coming today to answer some viewer questions that I've had in the last few weeks. Haven't had a chance to make a live lately to do viewer questions, so that's what I'm going to do today. Thought I would share with you some things that are going on here. In Zaragoza, there's going to be a Zaragoza Florece, which is a festival in a couple of weeks that they have in May at the end of the month. And the kids get out of school next month on around June 21st or something like that. So in the US, I think most kids get out of school in May. So that's a difference here.
Yeah.
Another difference with the schooling is that in September and in June, they go to school from 9 to 1, even if they have a long class day, unless they go to a private school that has different hours than the region. But most schools have short class days in June of 9 to 1. And they do that because it's hot in the summer and they don't have, some schools don't have air conditioners. So because the public schools don't have air conditioners often, the country, the government lets them get out of school at 1 p.m. to avoid the heat of the day. It doesn't get that hot here until around 5-ish, maybe
Yeah.
4. Okay, so another thing that's going on in Spain right now is that it's tax season, which means I'm just going to be in a bad mood, right? Because taxes make me in a bad mood. So we finish our taxes, and I have a question about taxes from a YouTube video. I'm not a tax expert. All I can tell you is that it's a self-declaration. Once a year, you have to file your taxes or pay somebody to do it for you. And you can pay it in 2 parts if you want, or you can pay it in 1 part. The way we do it is, and probably most people do it who don't just have that taken right out of their paychecks, is that you, through the process on the Hacienda website, you put in your IBAN number, which is the bank number, and on June 30th, they'll take out the payment for the year-end declaration. If you're paying it in 2 parts, then you get 60% taken out at that time and 40% taken out at the end of November, and it just comes right out of your bank account. I'm sure there's a whole lot more that an expert could tell you, but this is just like my basic rundown to answer the basic question about how taxes work here or how you pay them. You pay them yearly, and then you can make 2 payments if you want, at the end of June and at the end of November. They divide it by 60% and 40%. Okay, so I've talked about the festival, the school,
Taxes
school
too.
getting out. I talked about taxes, and we've recovered from the blackout. No residual
Yeah,
side
I remember
effects.
it was on his birthday, wherever he went.
It was on his
Um,
birthday that
yeah,
the blackout
they
happened, and
blacked out.
we did a live at that time too.
Uh,
Okay, so I have some questions, and I'm going to see, how do I do this? If I can share my screen and share a question that I have here. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so
Do you
I
guys
think
see
you
it?
should be able to see it. I click over, yes, I think we can see it.
Yep.
So it says new subscribers here from the US. Thank you very much for creating an organic, very useful and informative channel. Thank you very much for that compliment. As an American, I'm very happy for you and your family that you are out in the US as the country now has gone down deeper to the mud every day. My husband and I can't wait to get our property ready to sell so that we can focus on moving to Spain. May I ask if I need to get dual citizenship from a country colonized by Spain and where I was born, also in order to be eligible to apply for the 2-year Spanish citizenship? How about for my husband and my 2 adult children? The 3 of them are natural born American citizens without any relation to Spain descent or territory like me. I hope you will have a chance to vlog also about how it works, taxes of Americans, migrants, or as naturalized Spanish citizens, with retirees receiving Social Security income, retirement, investments, and dividends. Okay, so the easiest part of this question for me to answer is the part about citizenship, and I did give us an answer here. You do need to have birthright citizenship in an Ibero-American country, or the Philippines, or Andorra, or Portugal, in order to come here and benefit from the 2-year pathway for citizenship. It needs to be already established when you get here, and you have to have the 2 years of residency. we've done this process for my husband already. And then, so the husband, if one married part of the married couple gets Spanish citizenship on the 2-year pathway, then the husband or the wife or whatever, the second person in the relationship, can get citizenship 1 year after the married person has gotten citizenship. So like for my case, I could get citizenship 1 year after my husband had citizenship. So sometime around now, I could be applying, but I'm not. And the same goes for the 2 adult children. The 2 adult children, there's probably some age requirement in there, whether or not they benefit from your citizenship once you get it. Minor children, yes, can get citizenship through the parent who got citizenship. So like our 2 kids have already been registered for Spanish citizenship, and it's a 1 year at a minimum wait to get their birth certificate in the mail. If I could go back, I probably would just pay the lawyer to go ahead and submit their citizenship stuff when we did my husband's, because then they would be totally done 100%. But anyhow, it's possible for the children, but there's an age limit, and you're not saying how old your adult children are. It doesn't matter if they are American citizens or whatever, because if the parent gets the citizenship, then the kid can get the citizenship, depending on the age.
What is the age?
I don't know how old they are. There's 2 categories. One is for being 14 and under, and then there's another set of categories for being over the age of 14 up until an upper age, and I don't know what the upper age is. I don't think it's 18, but it could be. It could also be like in the early 20s. I don't know. Okay, so taxes of Americans in the United States, you pay your taxes on worldwide income, and the same goes for Spain. You pay your taxes here on worldwide income if you're a tax resident. You also have to still file in the United States, but there is a treaty so that you should not be paying taxes on the same income twice, but you have to file in the United States, which is filing the paperwork. Mostly you would be paying the actual money to Spain. So in the US, you have an automatic extension. If you leave the country and you're living abroad, there's an automatic extension that happens after April 15th. So you have until June 15th to file your taxes in the United States as an expat. And then you have the taxes are due in Spain on June 30th. So I normally try to get stuff done before June 15th in Spain so that I can file within that 2-month automatic extension. But if I can't, then I go online and I file an extension for the United States, actually with the little click here or there online, and it doesn't take long. And then that takes me until October to be able to get the U.S. side of things done, which, if you ask me, the United States taxes are a lot simpler, easier, straightforward, and easier to manage on your own than the Spanish taxes are. Okay, Social Security income, I can't really speak to that. What I know about Social Security income is almost nothing. I think that depending on where the retirement income comes from, if it comes from like military or just Social Security, like the government paying you, I'm not 100% sure, but it depends on the source. Retirement investments, you get taxed on any profit that you make here, and it goes into a different category. So you have 2 tax categories. One is the income taxes, like regular economic activity income taxes, and then you have the savings income tax bracket, which is a little different and a little less, or the percentages are different. So the tax payments here are progressive. So the brackets of progressiveness are different with savings income, which is investment and dividend income. So my suggestion is, I'm going to stop sharing screen and switch. My suggestion is that before you move to Spain, you talk to a tax expert. Spend the money and spend the time on talking to a couple of people, a couple of experts, to find out what it is that your situation is going to be, because you don't want to be caught off guard when you get here. Okay, you want to know what you need to be prepared for. It's part of the move. And you have to decide if it's worth it or not. Okay, I have another question. So I'm going to close this tab, and I'm going to share the next screen I have 2 more questions on the next screen, okay? Here I go. Okay, so I had someone who a couple of weeks ago asked me about kids, extracurriculars, furniture, shopping and delivery, and moving logistics within the city. Let's see, the easiest part of this to answer is moving logistics within the city. Basically, when we first moved here 4 years ago, we stayed in an Airbnb in Actor. And when we had a 3-week Airbnb in Actor. Within 2 weeks, we had a rental apartment, and we moved by loading up our suitcases and taking them on the tram in many different trips until we had everything here. We had like 15, 16, 17 suitcases, and that's how we got them here. That was our first move. Then when we moved to a new city, we use an actual moving company, just like you would do in the US, where they come in, they take your stuff, they put it in a truck, and they take it for you. That takes a 2-day process because they want to get there, and then they spend the night somewhere and sleep, and then they get up in the morning and they come back to your rental and they unload your vehicle for you, and then they go back home. And the people were from here in Zaragoza, so that's how they did it going to Murcia. So basically, you just rent a truck and they move just like here. The things that are different are just like in the US. The things that are different are using the elevator to move things. Sometimes the elevator is too small, and so they'll need to use the stairs. Sometimes the stairs are too small or too high, and getting the furniture to your apartment could be difficult. There are options where, like, if you're moving, then you can take your stuff apart. That's what we normally did. So if we had a shelf, we would take it apart. I'd label every shelf with one letter. So like, here's all the pieces for this shelf, and this is shelf A, and every piece for shelf A would say shelf A. We'd wrap it up in plastic wrap. And then the next shelf is shelf B, wrapped up in plastic wrap. The next shelf C, and following that, the table, desk, anything, we'd take it apart. That way they can move it easily down the stairs or the elevator. The other option is, if there's no elevator and the stairs are too narrow or the furniture is too big, is that they will use a lift and come in through a window. That could be your terrace window if you have one, or just the window in your wall. So we've never had to do that, but there are moving companies that have these huge lifts, like a fire truck type of escape thing, and they lift the stuff up there and send it right in through the window. So it's pretty cool to see, and it's like, wow, this is interesting. It's a culture shock.
Yeah, how much does it cost? Because if it costs like millions of dollars to get that done,
it costs to pay for us to pay to move from Zaragoza.
Yeah, but to put
Murcia,
it in the window.
It would be, they would give you the quote. You can have the people come to your house, they'll look at your stuff, give you a quote, and they'll know then if they have to use the stairs, the elevator, or a special moving truck, or if they have those logistics. If they don't, then you might have to pay a company that can do that more money. So that's something to think about when you're picking where you're going to live. If you live somewhere that doesn't have an elevator, or that has a very narrow staircase, and the moving company is going to have to use a window, they're going to need a special equipment, and then that's going to cost you more money. So when you're looking for a place to live, that's something to consider. Okay. Let's see. The next thing is, so moving furniture shopping. Oh, okay. So you can go shopping anywhere you want, just like you do in the United States. But the easiest thing to do is use IKEA when you first get here, because the economics of it and getting the stuff here, they can just deliver everything.
But then IKEA is more like in the outskirts of the city.
Yeah,
it's like farther away. So you have to have like a car to get a big piece of furniture over here.
Well, okay. So what we did, I don't think you remember what we did because you were 7 when it happened. But what we did was we looked online at the things that we liked to get an idea of what there was, and measuring things out. This is, you can measure at home and measure what the measurements are on the IKEA website. And then we went to IKEA on the bus, and you look at the stuff there. Do you really like it? And if you do, you write it down. You can order it there at the store, or you can come home and order it on your computer, which is what we did. And then we paid a delivery fee. And when we did it, it was like they give you a delivery time frame of essentially all day long. And so we had to stay home all day. And then they brought everything in. They brought in the mattresses, they brought in the tables, they brought in the couch. I mean, everything in one day was delivered. And that's how we did it. So that's the easiest, most simplest thing. Now, if you want to get here and go to all the little individual stores and get this couch from there and this from, that's fine. But I'm giving you the simplest solution, which is to just one-stop shop and getting it all delivered at the same time and paying for it all at once, and one delivery fee, which is with IKEA. Okay, kids extracurriculars. This is, I think, somewhat, it's not 100% different than in the US, but the main thing with extracurriculars that are different in Spain than in the United States is that you don't have so many sports at school. School is not heavily athletic. The sports are only at school. They have some sports at school, but it's just not as competitive as it is in the United States. And it's not like this school is playing that school and this is the sport that we're doing right now. Mostly things are done at the sports centers, the public sports centers or the private sports centers. Or if you're talking about football, soccer, then they go to soccer clubs, football clubs. And that's basically any football field
Like
here in
Delicias,
anybody.
Hernán Cortés.
Any football field here in any barrio is going to have a football club. So you can sign up there, or you can go into a private sports center and pay football, play football for that organization. So some schools have extracurriculars. Other times you need to be in a private sports center or the public sports centers, or you go to the football clubs, which is just a matter of either looking online, looking on a map, or finding out from someone where they're playing football at closest to you and going there on a Saturday and trying to find who's in charge to talk to them to get your kids signed up for that. Okay, so the last question, I don't see anything coming through on the chat, and I know this is a weird time to be doing this. I don't really expect a chat message. But anyway,
there's no
someone messaged me on Facebook because they saw a comment that I left on Facebook, and it's about appealing your visa through your Spanish spouse if it gets denied. And I did that on my own, and I've talked about this in a YouTube video. So just to forewarn you, I'm no longer responding to messages that are asking about living here on any platform. Maybe in a comment on YouTube, or on a comment in Instagram. Okay.
What is a platform?
A platform like a social media platform, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. So I'm not doing that anymore because I get a lot of questions, and it's like a part-time job to answer all the questions. So you can ask me your questions in YouTube comments, or here, like I just put this here so that I would have a place to share it at so that I could remember it. If you want to pay to talk to me, I offer that as well. I have a button now on Instagram where you can book like a chat with me, but I would prefer not to do that. I would prefer to just put your questions on.
What is book a chat? Like they pay to have a chat with
Yes, to
you?
have like a consultation. Yes. You asked me the question and I'll talk about it on YouTube. That's my preferred method. Okay. So this is a question that I got in the Facebook Messenger. It's okay. That I got in the Facebook Messenger, and I wanted to answer it here because I don't answer questions on Messenger anymore. Okay. It's too much. It's just too much. I don't even have a huge following, but it's too much. I get so many questions about so many different topics. Okay. So, hi, if you don't mind, can you tell me about your appeal experience and what you had to do? My lawyer has submitted the appeal, but I still feel very in the dark about everything that's happening. So first of all, I would say that this is not that uncommon to feel in the dark. It's hard to find professionals here who are very straightforward with you and open about what's going on. People don't like to come forth with information, either to protect themselves or just to, like, I don't know, keep you on a string or something. Okay, so my appeal experience, I have briefly talked about this in a video, the video where I talk about getting my residency here, Arriago Familiar, through my Spanish husband. And it's the video that's about paying some tazas on the ATM here at the ATM. and how to use the ATM to pay the tazas. You scan the form with the barcode and you pay your taza there, and it gives you the change, and you have to take the receipt with you. Or you go into the bank branch, and then you have to do that when they're open during the hours that they're providing that service. So it's easier to just go to an ATM at your convenience. But the appeal, my problem with the appeal was they have a list of criteria online about this residency, and it's the EX10 is the form that they'll tell you to use. And the problem that I had was they wanted me to prove their relationship, which is the problem that this person had. And I did prove their relationship according to their standards. Their standards on the visa website was to show a padrón for 2 years that I had been living with this person, to show proof of relationship, like birth certificates, marriage certificates, bank ownership, stuff like that. So I provided all of that. They did not like that my name was different on some documents, like I had my maiden name on my birth certificate and my married name on the marriage certificate. But what I did, and then they also did not like that I was only showing a padrón for proof of the relationship, that I didn't have my marriage registered here. In case you don't know, it's almost impossible to get an appointment to register your marriage, even in Zaragoza, where appointments are more easily obtainable. Here, it's still, I've been trying for many weeks now, months actually, to get our marriage registered. Okay, so what I did was I appealed it myself through Mercurio. And when you go on to Mercurio, there is a button there on the right-hand side that says, what are you doing? Creating a new application, submitting an appeal. So I submitted the appeal, and I gave them a document that I had written up arguing every point that they had made and the evidence that I had provided them for that. So it was like the bank stuff that I submitted, that their requirements say only a padrón. They don't even say you have to have a marriage certificate or a marriage registered, and that my documents were apostilled. They wanted like certain document. They were telling me that I had to have certain documents apostilled, which right there on their website, it didn't say that I needed to have them apostilled. So I showed them on their website that it doesn't say I have to have them apostilled. And then I had a birth certificate for this one from the US, and it happened to have my name on there, both names. It said the mother's name at birth, and then it said the mother's current name, and it showed both of my names. So I submitted that birth certificate, and I pointed out that it had both of my names on there. I submitted my sequence of passports, which was my passport from my maiden name all the way up until now. And I submitted a copy of my residency card to show that I didn't need a background check from the United States because I had been living in Spain already for 4 years. And before that, I had lived in Mexico for 2 years, and they require background checks of any country you've lived in for up to 5 years. And so that would, for me, would be Spain and Mexico, and I had already submitted that stuff. So they denied my initial request for this residency based on some assumptions they had made about me being American. And without realizing that I had lived here in the form, it asked me for my NIE, but it doesn't ask me if I have a legal status here. You don't have to have a legal status to do this form. You just have to be married to a Spaniard. But I did have a legal status, but I did not. They did not ask me that. And so I put in my NIE, and they did not come back with like, oh yeah, let's do a search and see if she has a legal status and how long she's been here and what her current residency status is. They didn't do that. So they denied, that was one of the reasons they denied me, was because they said I didn't have paperwork based on that. They assumed that I had just entered Spain and had been here only for the 90 days and was basically from the United States and didn't provide a background check and had all my names and different and did not show a marriage certificate. But it was things that they actually didn't even require. So I argued each of those points. I wrote it in Spanish. I wrote it in Spanish at my level, and then I had my husband check it for like just basic type of grammar stuff. But I submitted it on my own at my Spanish level. And, I was able to do that because I've lived here for a long time. I know how stuff works here. I'm comfortable dealing with it now because I've done many different visas and residency processes in 4 years. And I know that you have to argue things here sometimes. And I knew what I was doing because I was well read and well informed. And I am well read and well informed about anything that I do. And so I encourage you, even if you're paying an attorney or a gesture or an accountant or whatever it is, that you need to be well read and well informed and know what you're doing when you go and talk to them, because you're going to get different opinions and different answers from people that you ask questions to here. You need to know that doesn't sound right. That doesn't match what I read, or that matches what I read, but I have a question. Okay. And then that also tells you what this person's true level of expertise is and how they actually can handle someone asking them questions and argue with them about things. Okay. So that's it. That's all the questions I have. That's the update. I gave a little thing about schools going from 9 to 1 in the month of June and September. I think that coming to Spain, say in May, April, and doing the late enrollment process for the current school year and having your kids start school in June is actually a good idea, because they're not going to have any academic pressure in the last month. The school's not going to really know what to do with them academically, because they're going to say they don't know where they're at or whatever. I did this last year, actually. And your kid's going to have a short class day as long as they're going to a school with public funds. That's a concertado or a public school. They're going to have a short class day no matter what the class day is normally during the school year at that school. They're going to have a short class day because in June it's a requirement. So that's my little tip to help your kids with adaptation. Bring them to Spain in April or May, get them started in school in June. That's 3 weeks of short class day school, and then go through the summer, and you end up getting put in another school probably in September, but at least you kind of have that initial thing over with, and you got a taste of what it's like here in just in a short day, 9 to 1, 4 hours. Okay, so thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, as always, post them in the comments, post them on the community area where I leave post, and let me know. Okay, so I'm always happy to answer questions on YouTube, and it's just that everywhere else I just can't do it anymore. It's too much. Okay, so thank you for your support. Thank you for watching the videos. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing and all of that. I'm torn between wanting my channel to grow or not, because it's tax season. After paying the taxes, I don't really know if I want to monetize this. But anyways, part of me does, part of me doesn't. So right now I'm not monetized, and I'm still kind of like scared. I'm scared of that part of it because of the taxes. I'm in a tax mood right now, anti-tax mood. Bye.